Yeah.
Madam Chairman, it is 5:30.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Our normal chairman, Janice Menking, is not here this evening, so you get what you see. First of all, we are going to have roll call, Shelby.
Jim Jarrell.
Here.
Daryl Whitworth.
Here.
Jeff Lawrence.
Here.
Cindy Scroggins.
Here.
Tom Musselman.
Here.
Holly Rickert.
Here.
Tim Dooley.
Here.
Steve Thomas. Janice Menking.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Okay, item number 4 on the agenda is public comment. I'm going to read this so you understand if you have not been here before. Texas Open Meetings Act permits a member of the public or a member of a governmental body to raise a subject that is not included in the notice of the meeting for the meeting. However, any discussion of the subject must be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda for a future meeting, and any response to a question posed to the Planning and Zoning Commission is limited to either a statement of specific information, recitation of existing policy. Is there anybody in the room that would like to make a public comment on an item that is not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, I will go to item number public hearing, item number 5A, which is a public hearing, request Z2219 by Travis Jaco to consider a land use change from low density residential to medium density residential and a zoning change from R1 single family residential to R2 mixed residential for properties located at 611 and 613 East Austin Street and 106 and 108 North Columbus Street.
Make a motion, we go into public hearing.
Second. Motion been made and seconded to go into public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How does that say? Yep. All right. We are in public hearing. Anybody would like to speak to this issue? This is the time for the developer to make a comment. Please come to the podium, please. It's all right. It's my second time. Thank you.
If you would be so kind, sir, please state your name as you begin.
Travis Jacko.
Yes, sir. Okay.
We were just requesting this change because the property that we own, 611 East Austin, and it is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. We wanted to add a bathroom onto the back of the house, making it a 3-2. But we wanted to do this the right way, and it would knock us out of the short-term rental ordinance that it's grandfathered in, and we want to be in compliance with the new ordinance. So in order to do that, this was the easiest way, would be to change the zoning. That way we can add that bathroom and be in compliance.
Okay. All right. Anybody else like to make a comment on this issue, please? Okay, motion?
Motion to go out of public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to go out of public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. I will go to action item number 6A, which is a discussion and consideration of recommendation regarding request Z2219 by Travis Jacko to consider land use change for low density residential to medium density residential, and a zoning change from one single family residential to R2 mixed residential for properties at 611 and 613 East Austin Streets and 106 and 108 North Columbus Street. In your packet, ladies and gentlemen, pages 10 through 16. Mr. Bond or Shelby, please.
Thank you so much. So as Mr. Jacko, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
As Travis explained, they're requesting, this is a joint application with multiple ownership, including the owners of 611 and 613 East Austin, as well as the owners of 106 and 108 North Columbus. Ultimately, what they're requesting is a land use change from low density residential to mixed density residential, and a zoning change from R1 single family residential to R2. Staff reviewed the surrounding uses. That is found on this page here. And ultimately, the request is in keeping with the comprehensive plan, as well as the traditional development pattern. You have commercial uses here fronting on East Main Street, including Church's Chicken, Del Rio Auto, that all of these properties abut. Traditionally, you would like to see some kind of a buffer zone, such as R2, which is ideal. And if you go back to this page, you can see south of East Main Street, down South Columbus and South Olive, those neighborhoods developed in a similar pattern as well. They transitioned to R2, abutting a C2 commercial use. We think it's an appropriate use and staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. Board comments?
I do.
Tom?
Okay. Mr. Jacko is at 611 right now. Is that that's an operating STR?
Yes, sir.
Okay, with under the old STR regulations.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so you want to make changes to that would cause you to be in the new regulations?
If we make a change to the existing structure as it sits, it would put us out of compliance with the new ordinance. So we're not making any changes as it sits.
Okay.
But we would like to make a change, and to do that, the easiest way is to change the zoning of that lot.
Right. I think if we look at the map, if you look at the area, it's R1. This is an area of town that's not unique in that in a perfect world, we would go from commercial to R2 to R1. Okay. So we don't have a perfect world. We don't have a perfect world down here. So the question that I have is, if the Planning and Zoning Commission is considering a zoning change, then we need to do more than one block at a time.
So what they're proposing in effect is spot zoning.
It's spot zoning.
Yeah, but the adjacent property to the west is
Is-
already R2,
That's correct.
and the adjacent properties to the south are RC. So I could make an argument either way. I would argue that maybe the next one in line is 614 would move from R1 to R2. But we've done full block zoning changes before. We just don't like doing a single parcel within a block.
Okay.
So
Do you own all the properties on this block?
No, sir. I've been in contact with every single owner that has those lots,
Okay.
and if essentially they want to do a change to their home, they have to do a lot of things according to the new ordinance that have been passed. So, like I said, if it's changed, they don't have to jump through as many hoops to do these changes.
Right.
And that's as simple as adding a bathroom addition or adding any kind of addition to the home as it sits. And I'm sure you're very well aware of the homes, these older style homes. This is a 1930 home. I want to say it's like 900 square feet. So adding that bathroom will greatly improve the property as it sits.
Right. Well, I understand that. I think an issue that's before us is we're being asked to change an R1 zone, R1 housing to R2 housing, to allow the possibility of more STRs. Okay, so that's true, correct?
I don't know. That was going to be my question. I had two questions. One, we don't see the uses of 611, 613, 108, and 106. Do we know what those uses are for all four parcels?
Yes, ma'am. So
And I'll ask my second so you can answer them both at the same time. Have all four owners agreed to be moved from R1 to R2?
yes, ma'am. This is a joint application. All four properties are owned by three different ownerships. 611 is owned by Travis, and 613 is owned by another family that has this property homesteaded. And 106 North Columbus is a long-term rental, and 108 North Columbus is currently a vacant property. But 106 and 108 North Columbus are both owned by the same individual.
So all four landowners have agreed to do this.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you talked to anybody else? Did you talk to the person at 614 East Austin across the street?
614, that is a vacant residence. That whole lot is really just used as a parking lot for multiple businesses in town. There's nobody living at that house, and I haven't been able to get in contact with an owner.
Staff received no protests, nor no phone calls or emails regarding this request.
And we, just for the record, we do butt up to 605. That is for short-term rental properties, to big townhomes. in a
That's
sense.
Gail Gallagher's development.
All right.
And I did want to mention, when he first came in, we were talking about his parcel only. So staff recommended that he talk to the adjacent landowners to try to bring the entire block up to an R2 zoning district.
Tom, just my thoughts is, I understand what you're saying, but we have an unbelievable shortage of R2s. So wherever we have an opportunity to move R1 to an R2, I think we should adopt that. And the other thing is that in all fairness, we have always worked under the theory of a buffer between one zone change to another, and R2 is typically that buffer try to achieve.
And my contention is that I agree with the R2 buffer, but I don't think one block should be limited to one block. I think the city should contact the other owners on East Austin Street, at least down to Olive, or even farther, to see if they would agree to a zoning change. That way, you would have commercial R2 and then R1.
My opinion is that we have had in the past opportunities to zone infill like they're asking us to do. 611, 613, 106, and 108, and break it right at Columbus Street. We've done that in the past. Another thing. And that's my position.
Do you think we should try to reach out to 614? 614's already seen commercial. 614.
No, 614 is still R1.
It's R1. 614 is
To the
commercial.
north.
It doesn't
Oh,
have anything on
Probably
it.
to the north, I believe is.
But
No,
it's,
six
but it's,
fourteen is to the south.
614, that's North Columbus. you're talking about.
614 is Church's Chicken.
That's that
That's their driveway.
driveway.
Oh, okay. You're talking about 614 Columbus. You're talking about 614 East Austin. There's two 614s.
Oh, I'm
there.
sorry.
that's right.
That's
A little
that's a
strip.
driveway.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, 614. That is a vacant lot. That house is not livable on 614.
Questions, comments?
I make a motion we approve. Z-2219. What he said, Z-2219. With all staff recommendations. I will second that motion.
Motion been made and seconded to approve this request as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same
Aye.
sign. You oppose,
I
Tom?
oppose.
Okay. 6-1. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, would anybody on this board be upset if I lowered the raised the
Made it
damn thing
warmer?
off? Yeah. I don't know. It's getting close
That
to
is
deer
the first
season. I'm
time
at
I've
the
seen
angle
those
Ask,
icicles.
ask the audience.
here. 760. Jeez.
That Cajun over there, I have never seen that Cajun with icicles on his ears.
Remember, we're paying half of that bill.
You'd wear pants, it would help.
I'm gonna run this through the quick.
All right. Okay, onward. We are at 5B, public hearing request Z-2220, request by John Needham with Seco Enterprises LLC to consider an amendment to the planned unit development zoning district PUD to allow food sales and consumer convenience services as a conditional use for the Seco development located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Friendship Lane and South Eagle Street.
Make a motion we go into public hearing for Z-2220.
Second? Second.
I have a second.
Second that motion. Motion is made and seconded to go into public hearing on Z-2222. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I will recuse myself on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Musselman. All right, we are in public hearing. Do we have anybody that would, from the public, who would like to make a comment at this time? Well, we're in a, well, we can. All right. You're up. Okay.
Jeff Stewart with Seco Ventures.
Yes, sir.
As we have engaged with our development and design for the project, we are looking to amend our planned use development uses to include food sales as a conditional use permit. Food sales is defined as establishments or places of business primarily engaged in retail, sale of food with incidental sale of beer and wine for home consumption or household products. Typical use includes groceries, delicatessens, bakeries, and it explicitly excludes restaurants. And then secondly, we are looking to amend the conditional use permit of convenience services to consumer convenience services. And this was just a drafting error, and so we're looking to amend that.
Okay. Thank you. Now, comments from the public, please. We're in public hearing. Mr. Musselman? Now is fine.
My name is Tom Musselman. I'm a sitting member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I live at 904 Friendship Lane, which is directly north of the Seco development. I voted for the Seco development when it came before the council. So the questions I have are on food sales and the prohibited actions that the type of food sales that cannot be had. I think that I would like to hear more, have more information about what food sales The places of business engaged in retail food, are these delicatessens? Are they going to be sitting down? I have my wife filed a protest on this, and her protest is based not on the development. We don't protest the development. Her concerns are increased traffic. So one of the questions that I have is when the calculations for parking on the Seco development were determined, what did they use as for their work living space in the front? And the question I would have for the city is there a difference in the number of parking spaces required for a mailbox, for some other kind of consumer, I guess, consumers, consumer convenience service, as opposed to a food service like a delicatessen? So those are the questions, because one of the major issues on Friendship Lane right now, as Friendship is a collector street, the number of cars and have increased dramatically. The city is going to have to make some decisions about what they're going to do with traffic flow, put in a light, put up stop signs or something, some kind of entrance going into to the development. So my question is this going to cause an increase in traffic in the Friendship and Eagle Street areas? So is there a difference in the difference of parking spaces, and is that a difference in calculation?
So, as with any development, especially one like this, a mixed use development, there are some general assumptions made at the beginning of a project. And so the developer, in the preliminary site plan the city sees, makes some calculations and shows the city that they have provided adequate parking to serve the assumed uses. As those uses are more defined, the city will look at each one as they come in to determine if there's still adequate parking. So in some cases, there may be remaining retail space or a mixed use space that doesn't allow for a restaurant because there's not enough parking left. And so it's a combination. We look at it as a whole.
You didn't mean to say look at a restaurant,
Well,
because
restaurants would be specifically prohibited. They're
right.
not allowed under food sales.
Right.
So that's just in general. We look at it on a case by case basis.
Okay, and we did. The one question that we have is, what kind of food sales are we talking about? Is this, so someone's mentioned fresh pickings. Well, I guess that's like the one that's out on 290 East. What is it? Grab and go. You go in and buy a sandwich. Are these restaurants are these food service establishments where there is no table service, that is strictly to go?
Well, and I would defer to the applicant at this point.
Okay.
Staff would go by the definition that's in the zoning code. As presented, this would still require a CUP. So if this change is approved, it would still come back to y'all once the developer has defined those specifics.
You mean it would come back to them?
To them, yes, you to the board.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think that. And one thing in your analysis, Gary, you said that the surrounding land uses north across Friendship Lane, majority of proposed high-density residential development. Every residential development on the north side of Friendship Lane is an R2, which is classified as a medium-density development. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Apologize for that.
Okay, so I didn't want to think that we'd gotten some other developments here that we didn't know about. Okay.
And I will say the developer has completed a traffic impact analysis. So as those uses come in, we will look at the TIA and determine if an amendment would be required for that as well, based on the proposal.
And finally, will we have a determination of what we mean by consumer convenience services? What kind of businesses are we looking at in the three live work buildings that are going to be on the SECO development?
So
There is a
if
cla-
corrected, the
classification.
definition of that would be establishments which provide services primarily to individuals of a convenient and limited nature, often in access control facilities which make 24-hour operation possible. Typical uses include the running of private postal and safety deposit boxes to individuals and automated banking machines. So
Pardon me, how do you, this sounds like something that you would see overseas in Japan or China where you walk in and put your money in a slot and you get your sandwich out?
No,
24
No,
hours?
no. This is the consumer convenience services. We're not speaking to food sales.
Okay,
Yeah, on the convenience services, there's a typo. It's not banking machines, it's banking machines, ATMs.
So,
Shelby.
I understand what I read. Thank
just
you very
let me
much.
give you a quick summary. It's a 32-acre mixed use development that came in under a PUD. It was approved in spring of 2021. As Tom mentioned, there are a number of prohibited uses. So as the developer has been refining the development, they have seen the need for a food sales concept in the development. So what they have requested is to add that as a conditional use permit. So as I mentioned, it would come back before the board once they have a defined user in tow. At the same time, we recognize there was a mistake in the original PUD that refers to convenience services, which is not defined in the city zoning code. So as part of this, we recognize that mistake and would like to make a correction. It remains a conditional use permit. So staff is recommending approval.
So the heartburn I have is the amorphous nature of food sales.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize for getting out of sequence on who gets to talk next. So I think we'll try to correct that on the next item. So we now need to go out of public hearing.
Make a motion, we exit public hearing Z 22-0. Hold on, before that, does anyone else want to speak?
All right, motion been made and seconded to approve. Go back into regular session. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Now we shall go to action item number 6B, which is consider the discussion and recommendation of Z 2220, which is what we've been talking about. City staff, please.
So I did touch on most topics.
Right.
We did receive one letter of protest, as Mr. Musselman
Okay.
mentioned, but overall staff is recommending approval, knowing it would have to come back before the board for approval.
Okay.
In fact, we will have another opportunity to review before final approval. I move that we approve under Z 2220. Questions? I second that motion.
Motion been made and seconded to approve Z 2220 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0.
One request.
6-0, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Would you be so kind as to note in the minutes that the refusal of Mr. Musselman, we still had a form necessary?
And I asked that question when I walked in the door tonight. As a matter of fact, the city staff. All right, we are on to item number 5C, which is request Z 2221, request by Skip Preble to consider an amendment to Planned Unit Development Zoning District PUD to allow hotel motel as a principal permitted use in the CD district for the development known as Frieden, located at 133 Otto Eckhart Road. We're going into public hearing. Motion?
Move and go out of regular session and public hearing.
Second. Motion been made and seconded to go into public hearing on Z 2221. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side. Motion carries 7-0. All right, we are in public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to comment on this in public hearing?
Anybody here from Freedom?
Yep. Come on up.
Skip.
I want to make sure that somebody, when anybody else in the audience. So, yes, this is essentially we want to address an oversight. My name is Skip Preble. First of all, I'm Freedom Development, and thank you for letting us come up today. We have a PUD for Freedom that we put together about 2 or 3 years ago, and one of the things I agreed with Kent before and Brian, but when we're doing this, was we would essentially copy the C3s, C2. The C2 ordinance for the city. So we just, if you look at it, basically the columns are the same, text is the same, all that. Inadvertently, we left out the hotel motel use that is in C2, and we'd like to correct that. Go ahead and just add that. So it is simply in addition to what we had said we were going to do before. There's no other change to this as well. I'm happy to answer any questions, but it's in regards to the commercial area, which is in really, I think, blue. I'm not sure the coloration. Is that
Yeah.
CD? Yes. Okay, good. So CD zone is essentially going to be the same as the city of Fredericksburg C2 zone.
There you go.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Any questions? That's all. I really didn't have an exhibit. I just wanted to say what it was.
Thank you. Anybody else make comment? All right.
Make a motion, we go out of public works.
Well, all right, we
We
can
got
do
comment?
that. Yeah, we've got a few protests. One protest in your packet, if you care to look. One, two, one. Yeah. Over here. This is Judith Cullison in the audience. We have a written protest from her. If she is in the room, she's more than welcome to come up and tell us exactly why she is opposed. Seeing none, we will go on. So, the motion is made and seconded to go out of public hearing on this item. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. We are going to action item number 6C regarding Z2221. In your packet, pages 26 and 62.
So Mr. Preble did an excellent job of explaining the situation. I did want to take an opportunity to just update you on the development as a whole, since we have it pulled up. So Frieden, the entirety is 219 acres. You can see in the pink, that area is designated for single-family residential. Then as you move left, the tan or yellow is multifamily. We'll actually be considering a multifamily development later tonight. And then the frontage of 87 on both sides of Freedom Parkway is considered the CD zone that we're speaking of tonight. So currently, phase 1 of the residential development, the public portion or the public improvements have been completed. Home construction is underway. The post office facility or the postal boxes have been completed. So that's making good progress. As I mentioned, the multifamily component. And similar to the Seco development, as Skip and the development group have been looking at potential uses, there was an oversight found that the CD district didn't include hotel motel. And so because of the location and no proposed changes to the overall development regs that were originally approved, staff is recommending approval of the requested change.
Questions? Was a hotel not always, Skip, was a hotel not always planned for this somehow, some way?
The answer is it was always considered, but it was not felt like it was going to be anytime soon. And so we had what really precipitated this was our response to the RFP. And so this is the site we proposed for the RFP. And we were going to go ahead and come in and make this application earlier, but there was just no time to get it done in the meantime.
Okay.
So yes, it was part of the, when you think about 87 and you think about all the hotels along there,
It was like part of the
it's-
master plan, was it?
it
not?
always was, yes.
At least up there, not.
Well, and honestly, it was in the Overland Partners layout plan for this
Oh,
thing.
okay.
So it was always considered as part of the prospect,
Okay,
but we needed to fix the PUD.
thank you.
You bet.
I move we approve request C 2221 as presented.
I'll second that. Motion been made and seconded to approve item number,
Z2221.
6C, Z 2221. All in favor, as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Preble. All right, moving on to item number 5B, request by Skip Preble to consider a zoning change from R1 Single Family Residential to R5 Patio Residential for approximately 70.175 acres located at 256 Pica Road. Motion?
I move we go out of regular session into public hearing.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to go into public hearing on Z 2222. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. In your packet, page 63. Okay. We have a few protests, I believe, on this one. Did I call the wrong? No? Nope. 22, all right. Let me see.
There is one letter included in your packet.
Oh, I
on
get it.
page
Here it
76.
is.
The remainder are in the packet that shall be passed out. I believe we came up with a total of 9.
Total of 9. And we are on 22, 23.
22.
22, 22. All right. Okay, we have 3 protests. Anybody like to make a public comment on this? I have protests from somebody named Mary Andrick and someone named Catherine Arnold. Okay. All right. Oh, and this came in just now?
Yeah. He's wrong.
George Castles. Okay.
If you're here and you'd like to speak on this item, it's the public hearing and you're welcome to do so. You can come to the podium. Yes, sir, you're welcome to gift it to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think there's a few of us that are here, but we'd like more information.
Oh.
Can we hear from?
Okay, Mr. Preble does have a presentation prepared.
Good.
I'd like to let him go.
All right, do we want to let him speak do we need to go back out of public hearing or let Mr. Preble make his presentation?
We usually let them speak during the public hearing.
Good. Okay. All right, Skip? I understand, and that was my mistake. If you want the information beforehand, like they just said, we'd like for Mr. Preble to come. Thank you. Skip, you're up.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for letting me make this presentation. Shelby, I think that if you click on view and go to the slideshow, it'll either way, or just go to look at the whole thing because it'll be a little bigger so everybody can see it. Click on slideshow at the top or there. There you go. There you are. Okay. The subject to this request is a 70-acre plus or minus tract, right outside, right south of Windcrest and north on the north line of Pica. It is got residential on both sides, with single-family residential to the left or to the east, and then we also have single-family mobile home manufactured homes on a permanent basis to the west. The reason we are looking for a zoning right now. If it's annexed right now, it would come in as R1.
Well, let me correct you. So it is part of the city already.
It is R1.
It's currently
Okay,
zoned R1.
I thought it was temporary R1. I'm sorry. I thought it was. Okay, it's R1. All right. Well, good. That explains I had a misunderstanding then. Sorry about that. But the reason for this is R1 is if I've got a cheat sheet over there, but basically the width of the lot is you have that sheet one, please? Is 70 feet. The real issue that we're looking for, we're not asking for. So go ahead and skip up to the next slide for me, please. As you can see here, we don't want to do the straight streets, the kind of, I call them drag strip developments, where you have as you're looking basically at the front of garages, you're just driving down through as fast as you can, cars parked on both sides. We've been very successful with curvilinear design in terms of being able to manage the traffic inside developments and also managing the appearance of the project as you drive through it. It allows you, when you're driving through, if you're looking down a curve, you're looking at the fronts of the houses and the landscaping there, as opposed to the sides of the homes, which usually are the side of the garage, air conditioning units, things like that. So my builder is Sutterly Homes out of San Antonio and Austin. And they have proposed they want to build a 55 plus community here. It's one that they've been very successful with. Really attractive properties around the TPC, in North San Antonio, also around Georgetown. They are not high density by definition, but what they are is they are a patio home, essentially. They have a 0 lot line on one side, and they have 10 feet of open space on the right and on the other side. I think if you click to the next one, we can see what we're talking about. Okay. Let's see, Randy. Yeah. Had a pointer. But the idea here is that we have actually, this is only, I think, 130 lots. If you click to the next one for me, please, you can see that the difference here is that top, and again, the pointer is kind of a problem here. I think we left it. The top, this one here, this line here is the line that you would have on your property. This is the property line you have. It has the setbacks on both sides. So effectively, you have the same density, same total setback with the R5 density that you have with that, but it's all concentrated on one side. The side, you have essentially a 10-foot side yard setback looking into. All right. The idea is very clearly to, and it died into the color messes it up, unfortunately. Essentially, this, the houses were prohibited from having any kind of windows along the outside edge that they share with somebody else. And then on the side that has the 10-foot setback minimum, It has all the windows, it has the front entrance, it has that sort of thing. But the garage and all that, all the business side of the house is on one side, and the use and enjoyment is on the other side. This allows you to have the density that is pretty much the same as having just like a townhome project, but having a lot more open space as you're driving through it. Let's see, can you go to the one that shows the straight up and down? That's actually kind of an interesting one there. This is the elevation for one of the Sidderly homes. You can see that this is the zero, I think on the other side. And his windows are all over here. That guy's windows are all over there. There's no windows in the garage. So it allows everybody to have privacy, but have a smaller place. This development will also have the yard maintenance will be taken care of by the developer over the life of the project. There won't be any maintenance for these people. It'll be a lock and leave kind of thing. And having the maximized yard for that area and also having some privacy on that side is very attractive to these folks. Let's see, we'll click down to the next one. We did get some concerns. I'm going to answer some of these. First one is there was a lady next door who kindly sent me an email and just told me about her concern about having light at night, and it's going to be a lot of people in there, and she's going to not be able to see the sky anymore. This will be a dark sky community like Frieden is. We'll be enforcing that for the houses as well as the streets as well. As you can tell there, those are the only two standards that are up in Frieden. And that's the moon up there on one side, and the lights actually just shine just along the street and don't go outside of that at all. So you don't have you have the security you need, but you don't have the tremendous amount of uplighting you get with standard street lights. And let's go to the next one. Noise. I think we all are worried about noise. It's kind of a pain to have a construction project next door, but it will pass, and we will do our dead level best to make sure we will. Once it's done, as a 55 plus community, it's probably going to be a pretty calm area. I think that maybe what she was referring to is concerns about short-term rentals and what we call the woo girls, partying next door, and so there will be short-term rentals completely excluded. They're out there. They're not going to be allowed inside the project, period. So this is, once we get past construction, this should be a very peaceful, quiet, unobtrusive portion of the city. The next slide. This one was kind of fascinating to me. I wanted to make the point about, because I understand that R1 sounds like a lot less than R5. And it's misleading, it's unfortunate, but it really is just kind of the differentiation between single family, and I believe R5 is actually maybe referring to patio homes. Is that right? Is it patio homes? So it's grouped separately, but it's really not 5 times as much density. In this case, actually, it's less density. Doing this kind of a drag strip approach, we can get 155 lots that meet city code on that in this subdivision, the exact same land. With the one we have under proposed R5, we'll have 138 lots, and that's actually a typo. I think it's actually 130 lots. So, we're really not attempting to get additional density. We're simply trying to get the combined, the setbacks combined on one side. So go to my next one, please. This is the part that I want to hand off to Randy, because we have done a traffic impact study, and he's able to explain this better than I, so he can tell you what it all means. Randy?
All right, thank you very much. Randy Jenigas with SCH, working with Skip for about 6 years now. I've been fortunate enough to do, I think this is my 4th project in town, Frieden, Post Oak, and Harmony Hills, just west of Windmill. So very familiar with this site. We knew that traffic would be a big concern for this project, as any development project in town. And so we decided to do our traffic impact analysis early in the zoning process. Typically, we'll do it as part of the preliminary plat process, that sort of thing. And it is a requirement of the city, anything over 100 homes is my understanding. So we just did it early. We thought this would be really good information. I think we just completed it last week, provided it to city staff. Just wanted to run through some highlights. There's nothing real fun to talk about on a traffic impact study, so this isn't going to be real exciting. But I'll try and keep it high level and be happy to dive into any detail you like. Shelby, if I could ask you, thank you. So it's about a 16 page report. If you've ever had the excitement of reading a traffic impact analysis, it's, like I said, it's pretty dry stuff. But the next slide, please. Thank you. So this is the contents of the report. The basic contents is to determine basically the trip generation. And trip generation is the number of trips that are generated from the development and also the area. And then also determine how those trips are flow, which direction do they go, those sorts of things. And then do an analysis on some intersections that are kind of obvious in nature that need to be looked at. Which ones are the largest concern, that sort of thing. And so those are the major 3 steps or 3 pieces within a traffic impact analysis. Thank you, Shelby.
Excuse me. Might you skip to these recommendations?
I'm sorry?
Might you skip to the recommendations at the bottom, number 6?
Absolutely.
Without going through the detail?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Shelby, could I ask you to do that, please? Right there. So this is the final product, if that's what you're looking for, sir?
I'm looking for the narrative on what your recommendations are.
Sure. It is in the report. It is submitted to the city. I didn't paste that one open, but I can explain it right here, and this is a great representation of that, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Please continue.
So the final recommendations, cutting to the chase, and I think that's what you're after, sir.
Yes, I am.
The final recommendations they're not really recommendations. It's data that is provided within the report. We specifically looked at the intersection of Pica Road and 16, as that was the kind of the main concern, main corridor. We anticipated that to be. Though the traffic impact analysis shows that there's a level of service of C or higher, which means that is an acceptable level of service without improvements to that intersection. And so the report shows that no improvements, turn lanes, signalization, that sort of thing, when I say improvements, that those are not required per the level of service of the traffic impact study.
Okay. All right. Now, can I ask a question? Does that presuppose that the development is laid out with the traffic as you propose to use it on Pica Road, with the extensions of the stuff that marries up to Windcrest and to Green Meadows?
Yes, sir. Shelby, if I could ask you to back up maybe 1 or maybe 2 slides, right there, please. So this is a great to your question. Yes, we look at the existing traffic on Pica, West Windcrest, that sort of thing,
Right.
and then we add in all of the approved development, which is Harmony Hills at this point, which is on Pica. And then we also add in our development. So as proposed in what our density that we're proposing, that includes all of that. And there is just one note, there was a study done previously in previous years. And so we looked at that and married them up.
Okay. So it has to do with doing the intersection at 16 in Pica, is that correct?
That was the detailed analysis that we looked at. If the city chooses during the preliminary plat process to look at other areas or there's another concern, we can certainly look at that as part of that study.
Okay. My question is, and I would suppose it's a question of some of the folks in the room now, is what about the traffic impact coming out of this subdivision if we approve it into Green Meadows?
We're still in public hearing. I think that's was not public to speak and ask these questions.
All right,
I would typically not.
okay. Would you like to make a motion to go out of public hearing?
Well, there still might be the public that wants to
that's
speak.
fine. Okay, so I've got protests. Who would like to speak first? Yes,
I'm Dale Ford, and my husband and I own my mom's property at 57 Sky Lane.
you need to go up to the podium, please. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm Dale Gordon, and my siblings and I own 67 Sky Lane, which is a private road that you enter from Green Meadows. From Green Meadows, you go in there, and then you come to 67 Sky Lane. It juts up next to the Fredericksburg Baptist Church. The property does. Our concerns are on the red line zone, the 200-foot buffer. At the time of that we need to sell that property, will there be any discrepancy that the builders will have in being able, will that red zone cause us not to be able to sell our property because of the 200-foot buffer? Yes, sir. What's the impact of that buffer on the homes around?
So that the buffer you're looking at on that map is the public notification zone. So anyone within 200 feet of this proposed development received a letter relating to the development, letting you know about this hearing.
Yes, sir.
So that's all it relates to. That line goes away. It's just for public notification purposes.
So in other words, this line here that comes down through the 67 Skyline property plus the church, does that affect them in any way?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
That will go away.
That was our biggest concern, which is why we came to the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got a letter, other people didn't.
Anybody else?
I'm Charles Schrader, and I have the property directly across. And I submitted my protest later this afternoon. Many of my concerns have been answered here today. I do have to question the traffic study. I mean, the question is 100 homes on Piker Road. We have 2 streets going in west of this development. Those homes have to be added into the 100 plus I question the 40% coming out on Piker Road versus 60 going north. When that's a smaller piece of property and the traffic pattern out of there is going to be much more complicated than heading to Piker. So I am concerned. Highway 16 and Piker Road is a dangerous intersection. Makes a very sharp turn to enter 16. And so that would be my main concern at this point. I had original concerns about R5 being 50-foot lots, but I understand the developer proposing 70, 75.
Well, they are 50, pardon me. The 50-foot that is allowed in the rear notice it's lower density.
Right. And so that was a major concern.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will there be a road coming for a lot of traffic through that boulevard? We've been told they're going to open that up going through.
Shelby, you think I could ask you to pull up our layout, and I think that we could answer that better. While Shelby's pulling that up, I'd be happy to address the traffic question. We're more than happy to look at additional areas that are of concern. If there's a concern with 40% traffic going one way and 60% going the other, we are more than happy to review that with city staff. If there needs to be an adjustment based on various things, we're more than happy to look at that. I don't anticipate any changes to the recommendations to that because I think we could actually take about 85% of the traffic and go to Pica and still not exceed the level of service issue. But again, we're more than happy to look at that. One more, please, if you don't mind. There you go. So that ma'am, you are correct. We do have a street connection to your development. To be quite honest, the biggest reason for that connection is for water and sanitary sewer, because there's a lift station down in that corner. And for city services, that was a really important thing to connect up there from really a utility standpoint. Quite honestly, our first layout actually didn't have a street connection there. We talked through with the city and thought that, street interconnection is a good thing. And so we added that street connection in this layout.
Would you mind if I added one thing to
Sure.
that? So in the original subdivision plan or plat for Green Meadows, it actually includes a right-of-way extension of Green Meadows Boulevard to this property. So this has been planned for from the get-go. In working with the city's fire marshal, one concern with Green Meadows is one point of ingress and egress off of 16. If there ever was an emergency, how do you get in there? And so this would provide that second point of ingress egress. So the fire marshal specifically requested that.
But it will be above Green Meadows all the way through
Not all the way. It actually dead ends in a cul-de-sac. You can see Green Meadows Boulevard in their current plan, and it tees off, or it's a four-way intersection where you could go north and south, and then heading west, you would dead end into an cul-de-sac. And as far as the traffic distribution goes, I know we're getting caught up on the 40 and 60%, but there are other ways to get in and out of this subdivision. One thing I wanted to mention is, as proposed, the developer would be completing the extension of West Windcrest Drive to tie in with Smokehouse. That's something that the city has had on the books for a large amount of time. That will also benefit Heritage School. It's all about emergency access in that area, so that's a big benefit.
And we also address no one's really talking about Windcrest. There's also a road maybe there too. And Oaks of Windcrest is in the north part of that map.
Yeah, so similar to Green Meadows Boulevard, as part of the development of Oaks of Windcrest Phase 5, they extended a street for future extension. I have that's Smoky Oak Drive. So that was all planned for, and they are connecting to that as well.
Are they considering a traffic light?
So as Mr. Jenigas mentioned, under the current traffic impact analysis for this development, which also includes Harmony Hills, which is a little further west, a traffic signal is not warranted at this time. I did speak with TxDOT about that particular intersection. Not just the alignment, but there's also some drainage issues there. So TxDOT is aware of it. As part of the review of any development plan for this property, we would work with TxDOT and make sure they approve the traffic impact analysis. So that will be considered further as additional development occurs.
Very hard to get out from Green Meadows. And
Yes, ma'am. This situation is not unique. And just to clarify, we are only considering zoning tonight. So these are proposed development plans. If my understanding is, if they receive approval of the zoning request, they will then follow up with the submittal of a preliminary plat that will be reviewed by staff and the commission.
Anything else? Public hearing?
I do have one more question.
Sure.
This is I guess a city question. As far as the zoning goes, I know currently, I think Shelby, I emailed you about R5 not allowing STRs. Is that a correct thing?
That is correct. R5 specifically prohibits any type of B&B use. That would include STR B&B, so owner
Unoccupied.
occupied, STR accessory. None of that is allowed in R5.
And is there any process that could be changed in the foreseeable future?
Short of a zoning change, no, sir.
Absolutely. Matt Warfield. I live in 727 Madeline in Oaks at Windcrest. So I guess I do have other questions, but it sounds like this is just a zoning thing, so there will be more opportunities for information regarding the development they're trying to propose.
Sir.
Okay.
Thank you. And Skip, I don't know if you want to speak to that. Do you have any restrictive covenants, knowing this is an age-restricted development? I mean, do you intend to have that in your?
We will have it in the restricted covenants specifically, also have it in terms of the lighting. We have a dark sky ordinance, just like Freedom. We're significantly more restricted than city. So you're not going to have the lights on the outside, the building, the housing, flashing on.
Okay, thank you.
Like that. I actually have a copy. We're going to use the one that suddenly is used. That's how it works. Very simple area. Very simple that. That's perfect. Harmony Hills is not. It's on one of the. You want me to answer it?
Just let me, just so we're on the record, and if y'all don't mind coming up, Harmony Hills is actually to the west of Windmill Oaks, so a little further west of Pica Lane.
There's another one toward the front. It's got it. One more. I think you're going to the end. I should have left the outline up there. One more. There you go. Let's see. No, that's not it. Okay. I thought it was on the, maybe it's in your traffic impact study. Pardon me, it is in the traffic impact study. Keep going down. It's not on there. So.
Well, so on that picture, it was on the far left side.
Yeah.
This
See,
one,
it's right. This is yeah.
there you go.
This is Harmony Hills, right? And that's the one. It's actually it's under development right now. They drive down there and that's great.
Right, how many homes?
Many units, right? I can't. He's about 70. I thought it was about 60.
Okay, so that's not included in your traffic.
It is. It is.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're saying is this is included in there. It's approved development, so it's actually part of the existing. We're considering it existing. You know, not finished yet.
Right.
And then we're adding this into it because of them.
Okay.
And that was the
So how
assumption.
many homes have built?
Well, this is going to be about 260 to 250 total, the whole thing, 78. And this is 60, so another 100. It's about so what about 350, 400,000 have to be built total. 100 beyond these two projects.
So again, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little. Randy and Skip have submitted the traffic impact analysis early on in this development, knowing that's going to be a concern. But as the development progresses and the city receives more detailed plans, we will look closely at that to determine if additional improvements are warranted. Y'all have spoken to Pica Lane being an old county road, which it is. As these developments occur, the developer will be required to improve their half of the roadway fronting their development. As part of the Harmony Hills development as well, I'll mention there's a lot of drainage improvements underway. So similar to that, this project, we will look closely at the drainage issues. I know that was a number of protests mentioned drainage concerns. So those will all have to comply with city regulations. If you don't mind coming up, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Come up to the podium, please.
I live on Shannon Drive in Windmill Oaks Mobile Home. Okay.
Your name, please?
Ruth Boone.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. The back of my house looks at the 70 acres, okay? We have a ditch. It's not a very good ditch. When we get 2 inches of rain, the water comes to the top of the ditch. When the city did their survey, okay, myself and my neighbors next door and on the other side, we have approximately 15 oak trees. Approximately 15 oak trees, okay, that have been tagged and red banded, okay? All right. With all this development going in, and I'm not against progress, don't get me wrong, I'm not against progress, but I don't want to go floating down the ditch either, okay? So I need to know, okay, who's going to get the drainage, okay? When are they going to take care of the drainage from all these houses? There's 72 houses going up on one side. This gentleman wants to build, and that's fine, okay? I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem. We do not have good drainage. And if we get a good storm, a lot of us people we're gonna flood. That's all there is to it. Also, Piker Road, I don't know if it's county or city. Piker Road is horrible. It's very narrow. Okay, we have a bridge where 2 cars cannot go over that bridge at the same time. At the corner where we go out to 16, when you get 2 inches of rain, it floods. Okay, and it floods the clinic. The clinic was flooded with the 2 inches of rain. We have a serious problem with drainage, a very serious problem. If 2 inches of rain, okay, can fill up our ditch, we need to know, okay, what the city or the developers are going to do about this drainage.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I don't disagree. Pico Road, there are some issues out there. So just to clarify, it's basically built as a county road, and then over time the city annexed it. So it remains kind of a county road standard. As I mentioned, as the developments occur, improvements will be made. But on a larger, looking at the drainage impacts, the developer will have to prove to the city that they are not adversely impacting any adjacent properties or downstream properties. So they will be required to comply with the city's current development regulations, which include a large number of drainage requirements. As I mentioned, as part of Harmony Hills, there's a lot of improvements being made. I know Skip and Randy are working with the developer of Windmill Oaks as well to try to make some improvements in that area. You specifically spoke to the line of trees along the east side of Windmill Oaks. That is not actually controlled by the developer. All I wanted to mention with Smokehouse Drive, that is an old outlot, which is what I mean. It's an old. It goes back to the German immigration company, but basically that area is being retained for potential extension of Smokehouse Road. Now, I can't speak to whether or not that will happen ever. We realize there's a drainage channel that runs through there, so that makes it very difficult to extend a roadway. But as this development plan comes into the city, those are things we will look at. So I really can't speak to that right now, but we'll definitely look at it.
Can you speak to who red banded and tagged both trees?
Well, I know we did a tree survey. I think that ladies do their property. I know we did the full tree survey, everything pre-calibrated for all the way through our property. We didn't go across the courthouse. I think there may be some confusion where our property is. And that's kind of a no-man. It's not ours.
And we are working with the city attorney to try to nail that down. As far as any potential tree removals, that would need city approval before anything's done. So I assume it's your surveyors, but
we got a tree survey done, so I would assume it is ours.
Okay.
Okay, then I'm not.
That ditch is the city, right?
At this point, yes, sir.
If they got over there and did it, I apologize.
I don't think it was any city crews. I believe Central Texas is also making some improvements in that area, so it could be Central Texas crews. I don't want to speak for them, but that it could. Yes, sir.
All right.
I believe it's a city property for the drainage channel.
We also have that ditch, Green Meadows, directly behind our property. Yes.
Okay.
And we need that ditch cleaned up really bad.
All right, I've lost track of where we are in the procedures. I think everybody have probably had their questions answered. I hope. Don't
Does
ever let it
anyone
be
have
said I
any
don't
other?
run a meeting that doesn't have good public participation.
Yes, sir.
I do have one more.
Okay.
Just in regards to the zoning issue. Sorry, I'll bring us back to the zone. As far as R5 goes, I think so. The majority of people that I'm here with, we have houses that back up to that property line right there, and I think what our main concern is the difference between R1 and R5 and how much that house would have to sit back from that lot line. Can you explain how that would be affected? Like if I have a house that backs up to that line, could the R5 designation actually allow that house to perhaps be closer to my property line than it would if it stayed R1?
What's the offset?
No.
If the setback is the same, so that wouldn't be affected.
Yeah.
So
Setback.
the rear yard setback in each zone is 10 feet.
Okay.
So it
So it's the
doesn't.
same.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Forgive my ignorance. My first meeting on this, just trying to be an informed citizen.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I suggest we go out of public hearing.
So moved.
All right. Yes, sir.
Stuart Hendrickson. I live at 810 Gray Oak Court in Windcrest Oaks. I didn't get a letter notifying me of this whole thing to my address. I'm within the 200-foot boundary, and the only reason I found out was because my neighbors addressed it to me and saw where I was standing on it. I'm going to go ahead and verbally say that I would like to protest the change from R1 to R5 solely based on R1 minimum lot sizes being 7,500 square foot minimums and R5s being 4,500 square foot minimums. The way Skip, showed it, obviously it looks like it's going to be less houses if he did it instead of stripping it, right, with his, curved roadways and stuff like that, which I'm all for. But at the same time, I would like to see some congruency, and we have like 70 more acres until it butts up into Heritage School, which I don't know, like, if his plan has been submitted, because obviously this vote is just for the R5 to R1 to R5. So I have no idea if his plans have been submitted or finalized or anything, or is this just a presentation to get it to look nice, and then different plans are submitted on the backside, where not only 263 total homes are going in there, and they'll just shove more homes in there and redesign their streetways in order to shove more properties in behind us. That's my concern with this. And
The first step is the zoning change.
right. So yeah, that's my concern, is that this looks great, right? And this is a great proposal, and I have nothing wrong with that, Skip. I think that looks like a great community that you're going to build. But if this is just a forefront in order to get it approved, and then later down the line, they shove a bunch of homes in there because they're half the lot size requirements.
They're going to have to come back.
Okay.
So they need to come, then the next step, if the zoning's approved, they would come back with a preliminary plat.
Okay.
And basically that's what you're seeing
Right.
in these presentations. So if there's a difference between what's presented tonight, and what's presented when it comes in formally with a preliminary plat application, that's where the board may have some objections.
Only the board, public don't get to say.
Well, there's
Yes,
public hearing.
there will be a public hearing as well. So you will have an opportunity to speak on any agenda item. So.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, excuse me, if I may clarify, a zoning change requires a public hearing in the traditional sense that you receive 200-foot notification letters. A preliminary plat does not notify you of the residents within 200 feet. It is advertised and it is posted on the agenda and it is a public meeting and it does invite public comment, but you will not receive the letters that you receive for the zoning item.
Sign up for city email
Right.
notification of
Yeah.
meetings.
Okay.
And in 15 years, I can't think of a zoning change that the city's done that it sometime has not had a modification to.
Yeah. So that would be my primary concern.
Well, it's going to happen. Everything.
Yeah.
And just another point of clarification, there's actually a two-plat process for developments like this. You start with a preliminary plat, and then you come back at a later date for a final plat. So you have 2 additional chances to look at the final document.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Shelby, thank you for that clarification. Now, Mr. Giroux, you were saying? Yeah. All right. Motion been made and seconded to go out of public hearing on this item, which was Z 2222. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Okay, now we're in regular session, action item number 6D. Yes.
So the actual votes are going to occur right now.
Going to happen now.
So that was just closing.
We just voted to go out of public session.
Public hearing.
We have not voted on the zoning.
We're going to turn it into a mobile home park.
Daniel's not here to keep us in line.
We're gonna turn it into a Starbucks.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we know that already.
So I've pretty much covered most of the staff report.
Right. Have you got anything else to add?
Not really. You know, there are definitely some concerns with traffic and drainage, just like any development. Initially,
is Pico a county or a city?
it's a city maintained roadway now. There is a small piece of it that's still in the county further west.
Okay.
Now
is that going to have to be curbed and guttered
on their side? So we've spoken about proportionality
and sidewalks.
So sidewalks are not required. Are y'all proposing sidewalks? Okay. So again, we have to fall back on the adopted sidewalk plan. That's not required in this area.
Might as well get that out there.
So
Yes,
here's
so,
another question. Has there been any discussion of extending Smokehouse south?
So that was when this first came in. Actually, Brian Jordan and I met with the developer way back when, and we talked about the need for the extension of West Windcrest. We were looking at Smokehouse Drive and then the connection to Green Meadows and that secondary access. So working with Skip and Randy over the multiple years,
we're finally getting there.
We've gotten there, as Skip and I mentioned. Currently, it looks like Smokehouse is not. They don't actually control that old outlot. So that's where we're working with Daniel Jones, city attorney, to determine who truly controls that. But based on their TIA, there does not appear to be a requirement to build Smokehouse. It is still reserved. It's there. It's not. They're not developing that piece. So in the future, if the city or other developers determine that's needed, that could potentially come in. But there are drainage issues related to that area that would have to be addressed and would make the construction pretty costly. Just a couple other quick things. Y'all may know this tract is the Carinas tract. So that's what city staff has talked about over the years. This is just a zoning change. It does not require a land use change because R5,
It's residential.
it's low to
medium.
I've got it written down. So
low to just above low.
What's that? Yeah, low to moderate, I believe is how it's stated. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Typically, you see these with a land use change and zoning change. In this case, it still fits that classification. Our R5 is pretty unique. I think I've talked to a few of you about it, but we do have it on Courtney Street. There's an area in Crabapple Grove, and then on South Adams between Highway Street and Friendship on the east side, across from the primary school. So it has been used. Again, I think the reason for this is that zero lot line. That's how the builder lays out their developments. So we are supporting the requested change.
Creating as many houses in that land.
All right.
So I have a concern or a question. We have a street, basically a street easement going east-west that splits between these two tracts. And I don't understand why the city why we don't retain that, because we may need that. And if they put their curvilinear street right through it, that basically cuts off that potential through street that can go east-west and relieve some of the other traffic.
Not a street.
And I'm not just thinking about going east, I'm thinking about eventually going west.
It's not a street.
So as we looked at this, generally kind of a 10,000 foot view, the reason we don't see a need for that anymore is because of the development of Oaks of Windcrest already. The way they developed it, I don't think that could ever be developed as a true through street. So going back to the meeting with Brian Jordan, we talked about Windcrest, Smokehouse, and the connection to Green Meadows being the key points of connection.
Yeah,
So
that's depending on TxDOT agreeing to a light eventually at one of those two locations. And given how close they are to each other, they're only going to give us one light. It's either going to be at Post Oak as it drains onto 16, or it's going to be at Pica.
Well,
Green Meadows is going to get skipped over. If they're trying to get out through Green Meadows, they're going to be between lights.
And this is where I'll go back to kind of the high priority roadway extension projects we have on the books. We've talked about the Post Oak Road extension and Interloop as well.
Right.
As additional development occurs, that's going to drive those priorities up.
Yeah, but that's
These smaller streets are not necessarily the solution. They go through development, so we don't want too much traffic on them.
yeah. But I'm just looking at this going that east-west could be a relief from the inner neighborhood traffic that we're actually creating by connecting this all up the way we
Well, it doesn't have the width.
No.
It's only about.
How wide is that east?
We developed Windmill Oaks right up to it, and it's only about maybe 8
Yeah,
feet.
I think they put drainage improvements in it. I don't know why that wasn't addressed with the development of Windmill Oaks. It's just something that's still hanging out there. But
Because it
basically,
doesn't look like Smokehouse is going to be a real viable alternative, and I was thinking that was going to be our relief to get.
Well,
the
Windmill
traffic
Oaks
to
at
move
one time
around.
was contiguous with where Heritage is, and that was nothing. So it was just open grazing land when we bought it. So
a lot of it may depend on what happens with Heritage. If they expand the school, I don't know what their long-term plans are. Same goes for Windmill Oaks. They have a phase 2 proposed. I don't know if and when that will come in.
I just don't want the city to prematurely cut itself off from the ability to provide some relief through a cut-through street. And right now, they could reconfigure that development to leave that open so that you could come back in with a relief street in the future if you need it. I just don't like giving them up.
So I will say one of the early concept plans had the north, the strip you're talking about, they had it broken up into north and south. And as we talked with the fire marshal and staff, we actually requested that they connect these two areas.
I don't have a problem with connecting them. I have a problem with putting homes right over that strip to where now the city is cut off from a future need that we can't anticipate.
So if you go further out where I guess that's Green Meadows is developed, that literally is a walking trail. It's not wide enough to do anything, so it's not a dedication. So you'd have to condemn all that work to be a zigzag.
I'm just saying,
it's only about maybe 5 foot wide.
We don't have enough, I agree with connecting neighborhood up to neighborhood so you don't have cut off neighborhoods. But all you're doing is now moving pressure out of one neighborhood. Green Meadows has pressure because it only has one outlet. So you're now transferring the traffic pressure into the next adjacent neighborhood when you connect it up. So I don't think it's going to be the new neighborhood going through Green Meadows to get out. It's going to be the opposite flow. Green Meadows is going to use the new neighborhood to get out because this is the second connection that they get. I agree with doing it because we need it. You need more than one way out of that adjacent neighborhood. And then on the north parcel, you need that connector between the two neighborhoods. I'm just saying, if that is wide enough to even provide a single one-way exit out of those neighborhoods and the city can control it, I think we need to hold it because you may need it. And if you give it up now, you've got two sides with nothing to connect them and the city's stuck.
I think we would have to do eminent domain because where that ties into 16, there's actually structures there. There's a, if you're looking at that straight line.
No, I'm looking at the one that goes east-west and dead ends under Post Oak Road. You see which one I'm looking at?
I must be looking the other direction.
I'm looking at this one that goes east-west.
Correct.
Can I say also, you said this was a zoning conversation, and we're really talking about where the zoning approaches. This is exactly the kind of stuff that we want to be involved in. This conversation like this, I think, affects all of our neighborhoods and our homes. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying you said it was a zoning thing. This is definitely not just zoning. We're talking about through roads.
Well, this is,
Where are you talking about?
Right. Right in the middle.
You can see it there. It runs from here to here.
It's this one. It's this piece that's been
That's true. Okay. Yeah.
for a future potential street.
Well, and
It's not.
and there again, Polly, it hasn't. It's still on the books. It's not. That decision should have been made with Oaks of Windcrest.
I agree.
I'm not saying it still couldn't go west, but I don't. At that point, is it truly a benefit if it doesn't get more people over to 16 or Post Oak?
Well, if it gets them over to Kerr Road, it will. And that's where the
Well,
development's
and I
moving.
think from a staff perspective, we need to take a closer look at West Windcrest. You know, that's the one that's set up better. It has signals at 16. That's why we put the four-way stop at Post Oak. And
I'm just
Milo.
asking you guys to keep looking at it because it just,
Oh, we will. And
I just
and
hate
again,
giving up anything that's going to give us a future opportunity to help people get around. Even if it's a one-way road, it's better than none. And that development, the way it's arranged, it clearly cuts that off.
And the reason this is being discussed, especially with zoning, a lot of it goes back to traffic concerns with densities. So that's why it's part of this overall decision.
For sure. All this Piker Road development is going to prompt TxDOT to have to improve that intersection there.
Yes.
I mean, that's
at least one of them.
well,
Now, you know,
the
Oaks,
primary one.
between Milam Street and the entrance into Oaks of Windcrest, and then Pica, and then all of the other stuff. It's a mess. I mean, to the point where it's hard to get in or out of all of them. And they don't put traffic signals every 100 feet like we would like. I mean, if they're going to have somebody going to have to pick and somebody's going to lose.
Okay, well,
All right.
I made my point about the east-west, and if there's any way for the developer to just adjust that a little bit to where you've got that space is still left so that we can use it in the future if we need it, that would be much appreciated.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Z2222 zoning change from 1 to 5.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to approve Z2222 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Question, clarification. 5 does not allow STR, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and that is part of the public record. Call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Onward through the fog.
For those here that are interested in this item, this will be considered at City Council on October 18th at 9 a.m.
Okay, now we're going to go to public hearing 5E, request 2223, request by Gordon Sauer to consider a conditional use permit for section 3.220 to construct a single-family residence on property located at 112 East Austin.
Make a motion, we go into public hearing for Z 2223.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to go into public hearing on Z 2223. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, do we have anybody that would like to make a comment during this public hearing on Z 2223?
Brandon is here on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Brandon.
Hello, Brandon Weinheimer with SKT Architects. This project was presented to you last year, once before. It's very similar in nature, but we took another look at fire protection for this single-family residence, and we found that we could provide better fire protection by adding a fire lane on the east side of the property versus the current narrow driveway that's there now on the west side. So we're proposing to basically flip the site plan from what we presented previously to get that fire lane. There you go, you see it there now, in between the title company and the existing day spa. And so we previously received that conditional use permit for single family residence and short-term rental, that previous approval. We're just asking for the single family residence approval this round, so dropping the short-term rental aspect of it.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Motion.
I'll make a motion, we go out of public hearing for Z 2223.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to go out of public hearing on Z 2223. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Action item number 6E.
Refresh our memory.
Discussion and consideration and recommendation on Z 2223.
So as Brandon mentioned, y'all saw this last summer. It did receive approval from B&Z and the council. This requires a CUP because it is a residence on the first floor of a CBD property. So previously, as Brandon mentioned, the driveway was on the west side of the property. As they've revisited the layout, they've determined that there would be better fire access by entering off the east side of the property. The city's fire marshal, Reagan Rapke, has approved the plan, as has Anna Hudson, the city's historic preservation officer. So when Brandon first brought this back to us, we had discussed, does this need to come back before the board? They are increasing the footprint of the residence and changing the location of the relocated office building. So we just felt it was better safe than sorry. In looking at it, they are staying outside the floodplain. I believe that was a concern the last time it came through. But as currently proposed, they're staying outside the FEMA 100-year floodplain. Did want to note we did receive, I believe, 2 letters of support for the project and 1 in protest. They're either in your packet or in the handout. But overall, since this is a rear of the property and not really ideal for commercial uses, and the fact that the proposed residence is only being used as a single family residence and no longer an STR, we are recommending approval.
Okay.
I'll hold my question for when we're out of public hearing.
I think we're already out.
Are we out? Oh,
We're
we're
out. You can go ahead.
This is how long. If they elect in the future to turn this into an SDR later,
CUP.
it's in the CBD, it's in the historic district. What do they have to do?
The CUP, if you approve it tonight, is only for a single family residence. So basically, we would consider that an expansion of the use, which would require another CUP.
So if they want to STR that later on, they have to come back?
They gotta come back.
Do they?
Yes. That requires a change to the CUP.
To me, you're You're approving a CUP as a single family residence. And I'm sorry, Daniel's not here to confirm this, but in my opinion, if this would come back and we received an STR.
Because it would be a ground floor SDR.
Correct.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. That's it. Yeah, it would be a ground floor SDR permit in the CBD, so they would have to come back for a permit. Okay.
Well, right now it's
I
just
think
a gravel parking lot back there, so they're not clearly delineated.
I think he's talking on the street.
On Austin Street.
Oh, on the street.
Right, Brandon? When you bring that road in, there's gonna be at least 2 or 3 angle in parking spots that are gonna have to be moved so that you can have an interesting.
We're adding one on the west side where we're infilling that drive because that's one's abandoned. But yes, I would imagine perhaps 1, maybe 2 would be lost to get the 20-foot drive.
So I'm a little bit confused. What are you abandoning the actual?
He's abandoning right here.
We're
There's
infilling
a
our
small
portion of the drive.
Here, look at the number of spaces we have to do.
So right now there's about a 12-foot or so wide drive on the west side. So we're abandoning that. Yes.
You're abandoning that.
So that's going to be curved and striped?
Yes.
So theoretically, if you're giving up the same size entrance egress and you're adding one, you will not see a net gain or loss of parking spots in that.
We actually will, because behind that Fred, Dave, and side place, there's parking spaces that now will be abandoned. But the abandonment of that drive.
Is there a change of the number of on-site spaces? Or you?
That's what I was actually referring to initially.
Okay.
Yeah. But so right now it's just a gravel lot, so it's not clearly delineated. Right now it's a day spa and it's an office building. So there's currently 3 or 4 cars that park back there now.
And that'll be abandoned, am I correct?
That parking lot, we're still providing parking behind that day spa with this layout. So we're providing 2 parking spaces in addition to the 2 for the residents. But I believe per the ordinance with historic structures, we're not required to provide any for those historic structures, right? So we're still providing 2 back there for them.
But those 2 are only accessible through the private drive.
They are.
So they're not really going to service that retail businesses that in front that's going to be losing their spaces.
I would think that would be serving the employees for those businesses as they currently are now.
Well, maybe y'all can answer, why are we having to abandon that gravel drive?
Because it's too narrow for a fire lane. And we're trying to get a fire lane onto this property to serve that residence. And so that's what the 20-foot drive is all about on the east side, is for fire protection, life safety.
That part I understand, but it still doesn't answer why you're having to abandon the drive that's there. You're not moving over the house.
No, I mean, we're thinking that's a benefit to abandon the other drive. We're talking about this drive right here.
Correct.
On the west side. We're thinking that's a benefit. If we're adding a drive on the other side of the property, I wouldn't think you would have 2 drives for this one property. You would.
So the city's driveway spacing requirements.
The spacing requirements between entrances.
Yes, sir.
Because it like Darryl mentioned, in effect, you're losing parking spaces. You're losing the one for the 20-foot private drive, which is going to a private drive, plus there are employees parking in that space now that are now going to be forced to my parking lot or on the street.
This lot is less than 100 feet wide. Then.
What is our?
Typically in situations like this, we don't look at just the spacing. We look at the on-street parking, because we do have developers that can't meet that criteria, but if they start taking away all the parking, where their customers going to park. So, as Brandon mentioned, the need to move the driveway over was basically stemmed from a discussion with the fire marshal. I think Brandon tried to make the previous layout work, and it just wouldn't work with the fire marshal's requirements.
And at less than 100-foot width of the lot, they can't have 2 driveways on a single lot. They don't have. I know.
CBD.
Okay.
So in light of our already less than plentiful parking in that immediate area, fact that by putting a house there, going to add additional 2 spots. If you look at what you have here, you only have one carport note, single car carport, whereas you're looking at the map, there's actually a large traveler that multiple cars. You are not only removing spots from the street, but removing spots from the back, which is legally more congestion. So
We
the
have
question
two
is,
cars in the carport. You said a single carport?
well, it says carport and there's 2 vehicles parked.
Yeah, 2 cars.
That's right. That it looked as though just one vehicle, the other was
It's a motorcycle.
not a motorcycle. They take up less space. So just back to, is it feasible just to leave that gravel drive in place? What's the downside of that?
Well, there's a parking space on Austin Street.
Well, there's also a relocated office building that would interfere.
Right.
Relocated item to the one road, I didn't know that you're on. Say that again? See how they noted relocated office space. Where's it going?
We're just moving it to the side to make as much parking as we can back there.
Oh, you're physically moving.
Yes.
You can kind of see it's dashed there. It's real light, but where the 2 parking spaces are, where Brandon's pointing, it's just being shifted over.
Okay.
And again, Anna has approved these changes on the site.
Yes, I think we are.
Yeah, we're ready for a motion.
I'm ready to make that motion. Let's approve this booger.
Okay,
So that is Z2223.
second.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve request Z2223 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Now, for those of you who are still in the room, I assume you're not here just for grins. So let's go on to item number F. 6F, which is an action item, request SP 2219 by Ray Herrera to consider a site plan for development of a professional office complex located at 1403 East Main Street, page 88 through 96 in your packet. Brandon, Garrett.
Shelby's actually taking this. From here on out, it's Shelby.
Okay, Shelby, here you go. You're on.
Sure. Ray, the applicant's actually here. I think he'd like to speak to the project first, if you don't mind, and then I'll go
Sure,
ahead and add
go
my
right ahead.
comments after.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
I'm Ray Herrera, and I own that property on 1403 East Main Street.
Yes, sir.
Across from the UPS store. So it's not a very good use. I'd like to demolish that building and put some little office complexes back in that area that has all the pretty trees and make it better and safer.
What's is that where the barber is?
They have to do that.
Are they gonna get to come back? You gonna move my barber?
No, he's staying. He's already picked one out.
Ah, okay, good. All right.
Thank
Anything else?
you.
Shelby?
So as Ray had mentioned, there is an existing use on site, but him and his family would like to improve the site and add a total of 6 single-story professional office type buildings. Overall, it's a great project. It looks amazing, and they've done a really good job in working with the entry corridor development guidelines. They've put the focus on development towards the rear of the property, putting the parking towards the front, which is what we look for when we're talking about those entry corridor design guidelines. There are a couple of items to this project. The lot has frontage on East Main Street, and so it will require TxDOT approval for the expansion of that driveway that they have there currently. It's zone C1 neighborhood commercial, and as of April 1st, we have seen some changes to that ordinance. So you guys will notice that the setbacks are slightly different now than what we saw before, and currently the development of the rear unit doesn't comply with that 15-foot setback. The applicant has been made aware of that, and I think he has plans to address that. In addition, there's an impervious cover max of 70%. They're just a little bit over that at 72%. They've also been made aware of that, and they plan to address that by adding some impervious pavers and some additional landscaping to the development. The total parking requirements are 8. That includes 2 ADA spaces, and they're currently providing 12. I bring this up because even if the developer needed to move some of those buildings further and they were to lose a parking space, they would still be in compliance with their overall parking requirements. Utilities, they're already using them, they're available on site. Detention will be evaluated prior to release of building plans. There is some requirements for screening as well as landscaping, and staff does mark that as a condition of approval. Overall, we recommend approval of the project, conditioned upon addressing staff's comments, approval of landscape to include screening, and compliance with section 3.200, which is the C1 zoning ordinance regarding the setbacks and impervious cover.
So,
Thank you.
So I have a question on screening. Are we just talking about the screening for the residential house?
It's
on
required
Crystal?
for the west side
Yeah,
and,
I
and the
guess,
south
yeah,
side.
that's the west side, and then the south side, which is the old Rick's house. And there's screening on Baptist Church.
Already.
They've already got.
There's already
There's already
some
red tip fatinias.
exactly.
It's actually not required.
Pardon me?
It's actually not required.
It's not required there, but it's already there.
It's already
anyway.
there.
Yeah. Thank you,
Could
Shelby.
they? What kind of walkway are you having in the back? Is it going to be pervious pavers? I guess
You mean on
Proposed granite.
the south side?
Yeah, toward the south, back in the area where I'm.
So behind the buildings, I don't have anything back there. It's just all going to be landscaping of some sort.
I'm concerned about the impervious cover. Could they use? I guess granite gravel when it compacts is not impervious, but are
Right.
there are other things like pervious pavers, which I think were approved for the Bercy development on Friendship, that would get them in, that would get him in the
Coverage requirement.
the correct coverage requirement.
I think it all
Yeah.
falls under staff recommendations and the landscaping
Yeah.
provided, section 7.920 and 7.940.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's it? Yes, sir. All right. That was easy enough.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Question, have you spoken to your neighbor there at 101?
No, it's a B&B. So I'm not even sure who that is.
It used to be your house.
Honestly. It used to be my house.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
So I move we approve SP 2219 at 1403 East Main Street with the conditions recommended by city staff, recommendations 1, 2, and 3.
Second. Motion been made to approve it as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Brewer. Yes, sir. Thank you for waiting so long.
Ray sensed there was an immediate need for more offices because you're throwing everybody out.
Oh, yeah, and you're full.
Yes, he is.
All right, we are going on to another site plan. All right, action item number 6G, request 2220 by James Fonder to consider a site plan for development of personal services facility located at 113 East Brody Street, pages 97 in your packet through 105. Hello.
Hi.
So sorry it's taken so long. Tell us about your project, please.
I am a local seamstress, and what we're wanting to develop on here is a building for me to put my business in.
Okay. That's pretty much it. Hi, Shelby, is this one yours?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please continue.
Thank you. As the applicant mentioned, it's pretty straightforward. The site currently houses a 2-story building with the first floor serving as a medical office and the second floor serving as a residence. So the applicant is requesting to add this first floor unit fronting on Trailmore to serve as her seamstress office. The property is zoned C1 neighborhood commercial. They've done a great job in adhering to the building coverages, the impervious cover calculations. It falls within all of the necessary requirements for the zoning. I would like to comment that they were specifically sensitive to the residential uses around them in adding screening with landscape material to the north that fronts on East Brody Street. And staff recommends approval conditioned upon a approved landscape plan prior to issuance of building permit and approved detention plans prior to building permit approval.
Thank you. Board, questions, comments?
I'll make a motion, we approve SP 2220.
Second. Motion been made and seconded to approve site plan 2220 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Action item number 6H, request SP 2221 by Thomas Baker with IM Studios to consider a site plan for multifamily development located at 801 Mariposa Drive. Page 106 in your packet.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start by saying that I'm not Thomas Baker. I'm Diana Bravo, but I'm with IM Studios. And I'm here to present the brand is at Freedom. It's a multifamily complex. It's 7 building development, 7 apartment buildings, 3 stories, with a total of 305 units. We also have a 5,000 square feet retail building and a leasing office building as well. We also have several amenities on site, including pickleball courts, a pool, urban gardening plots, and several other common areas as well.
Okay.
Thank you for that summary. As the applicant mentioned, a site plan has been submitted to develop property located at 801 Mariposa. Thank you. The proposed development would include 7 3-story buildings and consist of 18 efficiency units, 152 one-bedroom units, 135 two-bedroom units, for a total of 305 units. The development would also include a 5,000 square foot retail space and several amenities, including pickleball courts, a pool, urban gardening plots, and several common areas. The proposed development does have access off of Otto Eckert Road and Mariposa Drive, and all units will be equipped with a fire suppression system. This property is located within the Freedom Development, as y'all are aware, and it operates underneath that PUD zoning. It does fall into conformity with all of their building coverage and impervious cover requirements, as well as the height restrictions of 38 feet. The parking requirements, I kind of broke them down specifically as of April 1st. Those parking elements have varied based off of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. This is also the first development we're seeing implement that 10% requirement of the overall parking spaces for guest parking. So in addition to the required parking, we're also seeing a 10% addition of guest parking. And then the retail space will require 1 space per 400 square feet, which results in additional 13 spaces for a total parking requirement of 509 spaces, of which they've provided 642. Water and sanitary sewer will be available to serve the site. Stormwater detention plans, they'll be reviewed as part of the civil construction process. One other item I wanted to touch on was park dedication. This project will require park dedication for the full amount, $500 per unit. And that is required payable prior to the building permit plans. You'll see that large number there of $152,500. And then screening is also required and provided along the southern, western, and eastern property lines. And staff recommends approval conditioned upon a landscape plan, approval of civil construction plans, park dedication, recordation of the previously approved final plat, and then approval of an addressing plan.
Just one question. Where is this?
It's in
I think
front
it's
of
right here.
Freedom.
That's the only thing I'm trying to thought of where to go.
It's part of the Freedom Development.
Part of Freedom.
Okay. Jim, I think one thing that's confusing is that it's got a Mariposa address, and Mariposa off of 290,
It goes through
okay, we talked about that 2 weeks ago. Well, it goes in, and then when it goes into Freedom, they changed it, so now it goes down, I think, into the Hodges property, and it stops. And this is the other end of Mariposa, at the other end of the Freedom property. So the big part of Mariposa that's not there is what's on the Hodges property.
So
That's exactly right.
is this visible
Right.
from 87?
Yes.
Yeah, this is right. This is the entrance of 87, and
And this-
the monolith, the Frieden monolith.
This now sits behind the commercial one that we just went
Right.
through earlier. It sits
And-
west of the commercial piece.
And this came before the board a few months ago with a request for the height.
Yeah.
That's the height. So they have now gone back and are building it in conformance with the current HUD.
That's all I needed.
Okay.
Well, I remember that.
Yeah.
Right.
In addition, I did want to touch on one additional item. This is a multifamily zoning in the PUD, and as such, it allows for, by conditional use permit only, a limited retail sales element. They don't have an end tenant in place yet. They're not certain quite where they're going. They just wanted to plan for that in their overall site plan development. So if a limited retail sales tenant comes into play, they would be required to come back for a conditional use permit.
Just out of curiosity from the developer side, is that retail space in the base of one of the buildings, or is it completely separate from what I'm seeing?
I can answer that. So the retail space is just northeast of the clubhouse, as you can see it. And it's not really retail. We don't know if a retailer is going to go in there, or it could be a day spa. I don't know. But it's available. We're not going to finish it out. We're not going to put a business in there. It'll just be a shell available for lease, and the tenant can finish it however they like.
I think so.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Questions, comments? Motion?
I make a motion we approve S2221, SB2221, I think. As presented with staff's conditions, landscape plan, approval of civil construction plans, and review of building application and payment of that big fat park.
Yeah. Second, please.
You had to make it out.
Second? Motion been made and seconded to approve request number site plan 2221 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Please understand, we're not laughing at your development, but every time the park dedication comes up, I want to know where the hell the money's going.
It's going.
I wanted to ask that question.
We started adding it up.
And how much is there?
Parks Master Plan.
Actually,
Right now,
I can tell you where
Thank
it's
you.
going.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
It's going to go to the Frank Schmidt Senior Neighborhood Park on
Skip, thanks for
Fredericksburg.
coming.
This is the time Daniel would chime in and say we need to go back to the agenda.
Check in.
Or it would be Janice. We really enjoyed the fact that Daniel hadn't been here tonight.
Hey, guys.
First, I want to say
All
I'm
right.
really disappointed.
Number 6.
Hold on, let him intro you right quick.
6I, request by Josh Lemons with Searchers Survey to consider a final plat for Altstadt Village subdivision, phase 1, pages 124 to 131.
Blast again.
And that is at the end of, as I recall, Moore Street?
Yes.
Center, okay.
Center.
Center and
also.
Moore, okay. All right.
Yeah, I thought when I got here that everybody was here for me, but apparently I'm not good enough at stirring up drama, so I'm going to work on that next time.
Are you disappointed? Can't you come up with some kind of controversy to stick
So
around?
I was going to introduce Charles. He is here with Paradisa Homes, and so they are the developer that actually owns the property and is handling the final finish out of this development. So as you can see, this is very similar to the last plan we presented previously. Would make note too, on the east side, we did do some redesign. Things all worked out, and so we're able to remove that cul-de-sac. It did look kind of like an eyesore there. It's kind of weird because there is another sort of turnaround to go south on the second unit. And so that did clean things up considerably. I think it looks a lot better. I was really happy that we're able to get to that point and get that done. So anyway, and then on the other thing, I was just going to make a slight note here that we originally started out calling these phases, but in consideration of keeping it consistent with other subdivisions like Stone Ridge, we decided to be a little bit
better to call them units. And then we also have made all the lot numbers continuous throughout Unit 1 and Unit 2. So that way there's no confusion when you say you're at building on lot 1, you're not building on lot 1 of Unit 2, you're building on lot 1 of Unit 1.
Perfect.
So, anyway, so if y'all have any questions, feel free to lob them our way and we'll do our best to answer them for you.
Shelby?
Thank you, Josh. That was a great summary. We thought in particular you'd be happy about the elimination of the cul-de-sac, so thank you for that. Just a quick reminder, these lots are all zoned R1 single family residential that has a minimum lot size of 7,500 square feet with a minimum lot width of 70. All of the lots are in conformity with that requirement for a total of 23 lots. There are some standard easements such as site visibility. Staff asks that they're just in accordance with the city subdivision ordinance. In addition, the plat does require an all-weather turnaround or secondary access to the end of East Center. Staff will review, the turnaround should be approved by the city fire marshal and easement should be approved by the city attorney. Just a quick little note there, we'll definitely verify that prior to recordation of the plat. And then detention will be addressed as part of the construction plans. And park dedication also is required at $500 per lot for the total of 23 lots, resulting in $11,500. And staff recommends approval based on addressing staff's comments and a park dedication payable prior to recordation of the plat.
What is the bigger?
That's the existing building.
That's the existing historic structure.
Is that Bob?
What's that?
Whose house is that?
I don't know the original
Bob,
name.
isn't it? No, I don't think. He's asking if it's Bobby Wall.
No, the Walsh property is the subdivision south of that on the south side of College, and that I did that plat as well.
Is this house that you're talking about? Is it inhabited by someone?
Not at the moment.
Well, this is all.
We actually, in the development agreement between ourselves and the previous owner, we bought the entire piece of property. We're going to sell them that piece of property back. They want to keep the house in either, I don't know if it's a historic house or not, but they want to preserve that and add on to it or fix it up. So we didn't want that really part of our deal. So that's going to be retained by them.
And who is the previous owner?
Fred Heimer, I'm not sure.
Shepherd Glen is they're the ones doing Unit 2 that's just to the east, and they were the initial developers of this lot. They'd asked to try to find a way to split it out prior to all this when it was being sold, but I told them that would be a little bit non-kosher because there are things called subdivision regulations, and it just wasn't going to work. So we decided to go that route, and it made it a lot cleaner.
So I have a question for the city staff on looking at the extension of Center Street and then North Lee Street. Is fire access off of North Lee? Will it make that turn on the center? Is that a concern? Off of Morse.
So I don't think it's reflected on this particular plat, but again, there's development to the east, so that will be a full street.
Full street.
And that it will be, so even in this interim phase where we're still waiting on development of phase 2, it does function in accordance with the city regulation. And these plans have already been approved. It's under construction. So.
And is College Street going to extend to Lee?
Not at this time.
But is there width to
It's reserved, again,
it's
similar.
Reserved.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion, we approve P2234 with, what are any conditions?
Yeah, there were.
Okay, and staff conditions. And park dedication.
Second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve request P2234 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Will these lots be sold, or you can actually build on all of them?
We're looking at all the options right
Yeah.
now. We've got a couple deals on the table that we're seeing. with the market change and interest rates going up, and so we're, like I said, exercise. But we are a land developer and also if you look up Paradisa Homes on our website, you see all the trying to bring some of that over here.
This
Well,
is
I like
actually a
that
very
you
good
left
topic.
the development as traditional as possible.
Yes.
I like that you stuck with the old grid and only put in one curve and one cul-de-sac. I would have preferred none, but one is acceptable.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all
very
doing all
much.
this for us, and we'll see y'all later.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
yep,
I have two corrections.
okay,
Sorry.
that's all right.
And Jim, you should have caught this one.
I didn't.
Well, I'll do yours first. Top of page 7, Jim Giroux's last name needs to be corrected. See, I'm thinking about you.
Did
Brian.
you put Jarosteen on there
Yeah.
or what?
And on the bottom of page 6, I want to clarify that statement that I made because the way it's written doesn't really say what I meant. So I wanna
now
make
you're
sure.
changing.
I stated the development ahead of, instead of in front of, public infrastructure improvement is not smart, and that the city of Fredericksburg needs controlled growth that provides return on investment to residents. I'm not for controlling growth just for controlling growth. I'm controlling growth to give us a return on investment. I can give it to you.
Thank you.
Those are my changes.
All right, motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second? Motion been made and seconded to amend the minutes. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Move to adjourn.
Nope.
Well, we do have
No, we have
item
we have
7A.
Give an update. Sorry.
You do?
7A.
I was on the list.
Well, so
7A.
we added this in hopes of having an announcement. We don't have that announcement ready.
Jumped the gun.
So so I'm sorry I don't have anything to update you on there. I did want to take this opportunity. We haven't forgotten about the training. I think what I'll do is send out an email to each of you and just ask about your availability. We do have a full zoning board of adjustment now, so we need to have that training now that all the boards are fully filled. So that's all I have.
Can you give us a status? I mean, I know an offer is extended, so. Can you give us any?
Not ready to announce anything. at
Has
this
an offer
time.
been extended?
Yes, it has, but nothing to announce officially.
I think the proper terminology for your selling process, I think.
But how Clinton announced it to the council yesterday is we hope to have an announcement at the next meeting, so October 18th. Yet to
Now
be
I move
determined.
that we adjourn.
Hope Spring.
Thank you.
Motion.
We're certainly going to miss you.
There a second?
Second.
Motion made and
You'll
seconded
still be
to
here?
adjourn. We are adjourned.
I say,
Thank you.
oh, sorry. It's just my laugh every time park dedication fees come up next week. I do say we get a tally board.
I'll tell you what, we are going to have some monster parks by the time we're
Still say
done.
we get a tally board to start. I want to see what that total is.
I apologize for the way the meeting went tonight. I just went spiraled out of control. Well, just don't, I don't have to worry about y'all voting for me for chair next time. He actually lived in Gordon. He was good. Well, Brian, we're up to this, right? When they originally filed that plan, they were saying